Hey Wobble Gang! I do hope you're doing great. My name is Ollie. Hit that subscribe button if you love a good Reddit story. Alright, let's get into our first story of the day. The first story comes from SockMonkey22 in the AmITheJerk subreddit, and it says, "Am I the jerk for cutting my sister-in-law out of my life, even if it upsets the family norms?" Throwaway account. The cast includes myself, a 25-year-old, and my husband, Tom, aged 27, his brother, Fern, aged 30, his sister, Margaret, aged 40, and her husband, Corey, aged 37, along with their dad and stepmom. This story is going to be very long, so I apologise in advance, but there is so much to cover. I married into the family about a year ago. They are a tight-knit group, but have been exceedingly welcoming and accepting towards me. It took me a while to warm up to them, because I'm always hesitant around new people. However, I have a lot of fun with them, and they've gone out of their way to make me feel like part of the family. I discovered early on that my husband's family handles conflict in a unique way, which sharply contrasts with how my own family deals with disagreements. In my family, we confront issues head-on, sometimes ending in heated arguments if things get intense. And we all speak up when something is bothering us or is fundamentally hurtful to someone. Tom's family is the opposite. They rarely address anything in real time, if at all. They typically whisper about issues behind each other's backs and usually just sit in tension for extended periods of time. It's been made clear to me that the only person in his family who is directly allowed to address an issue is their dad. Everyone else follows suit. This means if he isn't saying anything, no one else does. Period. The issue in all of this? My husband's sister, Margaret. I'll give you a little bit of background. She has 4 kids with her husband, Corey, and they have a really odd dynamic between the two of them. Margaret is the more domineering of the two, often speaking for them both, while Corey just sits there and nods along. Margaret is prone to emotional outbursts over things that simply do not make any sense. There are so many instances of chaos that Margaret has caused within the family that it would take an eternity to describe them all. I do have some notable ones. Repeatedly guilting people if they don't immediately drop everything to watch her 4 kids. Screaming at the top of her lungs and causing a huge scene when there were tomatoes on her salad during a birthday party. Regularly complaining that no one helps her with anything. Her apartment, car, and kids have been almost exclusively funded by the rest of the family, without any expectation of being paid back. And trash-talking her entire family publicly on social media regularly. Not once has anyone ever addressed these things with her, and it's continued to escalate over time. The biggest issue right now is the rift between Margaret and the stepmom, affecting the entire family, including myself. Stepmom married into the family about 4 years ago, and is one of the kindest people I have ever met, point blank, period. Margaret publicly shames her at every family function, and seems to specifically reach for the cruelest things you could say or do to someone. Margaret regularly asks stepmom to babysit, but freaks out when stepmom says no to any of her children. Margaret insists that this is toxic and abusive parenting. Stepmom can't have children, and Margaret has told her that she's thankful for this because it was God doing the world a favour. She's told stepmom that she was the reason her cousin unalived herself. She refuses to acknowledge her as a matriarchal figure and regularly says things like, "This is my dad's house, not yours. I'm not your daughter. You'd never be fit to be a mum. And I don't know why my dad even married you." Margaret has even compared stepmom to their dad's ex-wife, who stabbed him and ended up in prison. Stepmom has reached out multiple times to try to rectify or make peace with the situation, but Margaret escalates every time she does. All of this is so absurd for a woman of her age that I can't stand it. I've kept my mouth shut for years out of respect for the family norms, even through all of this. But last week, I decided I'd had enough. Fern called me in tears to tell me that Margaret had ruined a dinner they went to that night. Again. Margaret has regularly used Fern as an emotional punching bag, and him calling me in tears is a regular occurrence at this point. At dinner, Margaret had called him fat and told him she didn't want her kids around him anymore because they would think being fat is okay. For context, Fern has struggled with an eating disorder for most of his life. On the phone call, Fern basically spilled his guts. There's a family vacation to Italy every few years, and apparently, stepmom isn't going anymore because of Margaret. Fern also let me know that there has been talk of cutting Margaret out of the family for years, but their dad hasn't even started the conversation of this isn't okay yet, so none of them can say anything. Fern had tried to contact the husband, Corey, to see if there was something going on, but Corey refused to talk. I've always been friendly with Corey. He's a nice guy, and if you can get to him without Margaret in the room, he's actually really full of life and fun. So I called him myself. Corey told me that everyone is being so mean to Margaret, and she's trying to break generational cycles. It sounded like he had a script in front of him the whole time, and was almost word for word the same nonsense that Margaret says all the time. Margaret is a victim. Everyone else is crazy, and no one understands her. After listening to him for a while, I told him I cared about him, but that I was done with Margaret's nonsense. I blocked their numbers, their social media, and eliminated any other ways they had to contact me. This is a big no-no in this family. You don't confront it, you don't say anything, you just sit there and take it. I contacted Fern and stepmom and told them about my decision and let them know that I wasn't going to show up to anything if Margaret was also going to be there. I told Tom and we had a whole conversation about it. Everyone is telling me they support my decision, but they have all also said some variation of, I wish I could do that because I'm in the same boat. The subsequent backlash from all of this is that although I am maintaining relationships with the rest of the family, Margaret is even worse at functions now. I don't have to see it, but I hear about it all the time, and I'm starting to wonder if I made the wrong decision. I didn't want to make it worse for anyone, but I just couldn't watch it happen anymore without escalating things myself. It was getting to a point where I felt so stifled that I thought I might hit her out of frustration, which is why I chose to back out after all of this. The family still hasn't said anything to her, and my husband told me that they all have a role to play, but that I also kind of disrespected his dad by saying and doing this. Am I the jerk? In summary, my sister-in-law plays the victim a lot, but is actually the aggressor most of the time, and my decision to cut off contact is upsetting the rest of the family. Oh my, this story is a whirlwind of crazy family dynamics. I can't even believe all this drama stems from just one individual, Margaret. Seriously, what are we even doing here? First off, let me just say, the silent rules in this family, those are toxic. Like, who thought it was a good idea to sweep everything under the rug and pretend nothing's happening? And Margaret, her behavior is just unreal. When does someone in their 40s act like a tyrant and get away with it? And you know what makes it worse? Everyone seems terrified to speak up because of this traditional nonsense. But you, stepping up to cut her off despite these norms, it's the bold move no one else dared to make. Are you the jerk? I genuinely don't think so. If anything, you are the catalyst they all desperately need. I'm willing to bet, deep down, they wish they had your guts. Drop your thoughts below. Because I think we need to talk about why people let bullies thrive unchecked. It's absolutely absurd. If you're reading this and have your own family horror story, let's hear it. This, I swear, is some serious couch therapy material. Terribly sad, yet here we are, witnessing the fallout of family silence. Tell me I'm crazy, but you took the brave route. Hopefully, it forces them to reflect on these outdated, unrealistic family norms. Stand your ground.
Nefariousness Sweet 70 says, having a getaway with stepmom is a great idea, from Tammy1313. Anyone else not going to Italy because of Margaret is welcome to join in, as long as they keep it quiet before the plane takes off. Perhaps when everyone else stays home and has a girls' or supporters' fun vacation with stepmom, Dad will see that the issue cannot be ignored any longer. Go and have a great family time with stepmom. Get the popcorn ready for when Margaret finds that none of the others want to spend any time on vacation with her.
OP responds. The last 2 trips they went on, there was some sort of fiasco with her having a meltdown over one thing or another. If I were a betting man, I'd go all in on it happening again this year. Butterfly Blue 0324 says, not the jerk. If they want to continue being doormats, let them. OP Pops responds, I wish there was a respectful way to say this to them. It's absolutely insane to watch. Someone says, 1. Going no contact with someone means not having to listen to others vent about them. Here's your script. I'm sorry you've decided to keep Margaret in your life. I'm done with her, so I don't want to hear about her anymore. Hey, do you want to come over for dinner? 2. That brings me to part 2. Start creating events that exclude her. Invite Fern or your stepmom over for dinner or lunch or for a movie. Don't invite Margaret. Frankly, if they all need to wait for dad to say something, then do not always include him. 3. Stepmom is no longer going on that Mediterranean trip? Great. Take her out for coffee and ask her what she's doing instead. Make plans for some Margaret-free events while others go. 4. Basically, I'm suggesting that you lead by example. Continue to avoid her, and maybe in a year, others will do it too if you start organizing family events without her. Let her complain. Don't stop. 5. If you have to be around her, stop letting her dump on others with no one defending other people. Look, you horrible person. Fern is a great guy and a nice person. You are none of those things, so why don't you be quiet? Everyone is tired of your nasty words. You can't even behave for one family event. You spread hatred every time I see you. I feel sorry for your kids. Stop holding back. She doesn't, so take your gloves off. There is zero downside to you telling the truth from this day forward. Oh look, the unpleasant mouth is speaking again. Have fun with it.
OP responds, I laugh really hard at, oh look, Poop Mouth is speaking again. Thank you for that. Your first 4 points are absolutely my plan. Just because we aren't talking doesn't mean I can't put forth effort to see the rest of the family. Oh, everyone is over for Christmas? Not me, sorry. I'll come over the day after or on New Year's. I'm fully committed to this. I have several plans with mother-in-law specifically in the upcoming weeks. Myself, Fern, and Tom are going over to mother-in-law and father-in-law's house this Sunday. We all 3 planned a dinner with her, and I intentionally left Margaret and Corey out of the plan. If there ever is something that is outside of my control where Margaret is in my vicinity, I'll match energy with everything I have in me. Solid plan. We are on the same page entirely. Tamari says, You're not the jerk. If I were the stepmom, I would have divorced her husband years ago when he didn't put a stop to Margaret's abuse from the beginning. Just because they miserably accept being abused and father-in-law willfully ignores it doesn't mean you have to. I hope you have told significant other that any children you have will not be attending anything where this witch will be. Her abuse is likely to target them next. OP provides more information in the comments by stating, No kids as of yet. We both want to accomplish a few more things first and have actually discussed this in depth. We collectively decided to work on ourselves as people for a while longer before having children. I'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but it is absolutely a hard no when it comes to Margaret if I have children. She'd probably spew some nonsense parenting advice and call Child Protective Services on me just to be mean. 2 days later, OP returns with an update stating, Wow, this blew up. I did not expect that. Before I give the most recent update, there are a ton of questions you all had. I tried to answer each of you individually, but here is more context. Tom is the only one in the dynamic who is low contact with Margaret. This happened very shortly after I entered the picture, when I put my foot down over an incident that was absolutely ridiculous. Margaret had accused him of trying to unalive her youngest after we lent her a carpet cleaner that smelled. I burn sage regularly. She was dead serious about it and did not let up, saying, Wow, good to know you have no regard for human life. He broke down in tears for almost a week before I had to sit him down and tell him, This is the most insane take ever. How on earth is Sage going to unalive a kid? You realize how nuts that is, right? Don't let her steamroll you like this. He went low contact pretty immediately after that. Fern is a really soft-hearted person. It's been confirmed to me that growing up, Fern got it the worst from their biological mum. It's made him extra susceptible to Margaret's manipulations and guilt trips. They were really close when they were kids, and Fern sometimes feels that without Margaret, his life will be empty. It causes him a lot of distress in both directions. Losing Margaret is a devastating thought to him. Staying around her causes him a lot of pain and generally puts him in a really dark place. He's struggling with it. We still talk regularly and have a very close friendship. Corey is a really soft-spoken guy, super funny, friendly, and nice, generally speaking. He only shifts gears when Margaret is present. The rest of the family has identified this as fear. I only cut him off because of the way Margaret uses him to gather information and spread drama. He deserves better.
but I think we can all understand how scary it must be for him to even think about standing up for himself, considering that Margaret regularly threatens to take the kids away from someone over something as small as not pouring her a glass of water once, roughly twice a month. Margaret has yet to actually follow through with this, and genuinely only uses it as a form of control because of how effective it has been. It's like her Hail Mary pass. Mother-in-law really is a wonderful lady. She's really patient and understands how important father-in-law's kids are to him. She is trying her hardest to not break up a family, and I think she genuinely wishes she could also stay out of it. Margaret has fully aimed everything at her at the moment, and it's put mother-in-law in a really uncomfortable position. She's a pretty tough lady. I think she's just as bewildered as the rest of us and doesn't know what the heck to do with the situation because of how absolutely extreme it is. Father-in-law is getting a lot of hate in the comments. While I am not necessarily disagreeing with the statement that he lacks a spine and is allowing it to happen, I also see the pain that this is causing him. While emotions aren't the easiest thing for him, I have to consider how absolutely triggering the whole thing is. I mean, the last time he was around this kind of person, she attempted to unalive him. I know him to be an incredibly brave man, even if he doesn't always outwardly express his feelings or opinions. It's got to be hard to juggle and wrap his head around this. He loves his wife, he loves his daughter. I agree that he should put an end to it and that it's been a long time coming, but I absolutely understand why it would be a huge hurdle for him to confront, both in real time and within himself. I tell him all the time that he's a good dad because he is. He really is. I think in the face of a super domineering woman, after all he and the kids have been through, it just really puts him in an emotional pickle. I can absolutely understand that. The biological mum is a huge piece of garbage. The family really doesn't talk about it much. With what they have told me, I don't blame them. The biological mum frequently told the kids that she hated them and wished they were never born. She used them as ammunition to get her way with other relatives. She regularly made life a competition between herself and the 3 daughters. There are 2 more that are not in the picture that I have never met. And at times was violent with them. Fern and the biological mum got into arguments on a regular basis. Fern attempted unaliving several times really early in life because of how abusive the environment was. This was also the birth of his eating disorder issues because the biological mum regularly called him an ugly, useless waste of space. Tom has told me that he tried his best to stay out of the way, but that even he wasn't safe from the chaos. Oh yeah, and she regularly attacked the father-in-law and eventually went to prison for attempted unaliving. Tom cut contact pretty immediately after that, followed by Margaret and father-in-law. Fern was the only one who tried to still have a relationship. The entire family has been absolutely no contact with the biological mother and the other 2 daughters for over a decade. Now to the update. I spoke to Tom again last night about this whole thing. I mentioned that I posted on Reddit about this, but I told him I wasn't going to show him until things cooled down with the family. He was cool with that. I asked him a few clarifying questions because I'm still super confused about how any of this got to the point that it has. He told me that no one is necessarily waiting on Dad to say something, but that everyone knows that he is the head of the family, so the no contact thing wouldn't work unless father-in-law decided to do it as well. Pretty much, either they all have to do it, or none of them can without seriously compromising the relationships that do remain. Margaret lords the kids over everyone. Apparently, this is the biggest barrier for the family. Tom says he is virtually indifferent at this point because he only sees the kids at family functions, but for Fern, father-in-law and mother-in-law, it's a lot different. Margaret is the only one of the siblings that has children, and she has regularly turned to the 3 of them for babysitting and financial support. They are all super attached to the kids and are really struggling with finding the lesser of 2 evils. I told him that I could understand that, but that I was still confused as to why everyone was okay with the automatic response to any barrier or boundary being, you won't see the kids again. It's not simple for anyone except me, I guess. I'll admit, I'm very forget those kids in any situation like this. Children are not currency in my opinion, so whenever anyone has pulled this on me, I have not hesitated to be like, okay, bye. Tom let me know that he still has plans to talk to his father about this, but that he ultimately feels that he cannot control any of it, so he is doing his best to compromise. He doesn't like Margaret at all. He pretty much wants nothing to do with her or her kids at this point. He also doesn't want to abandon his family over this because he feels like Margaret wins in that situation. He is playing the fence, to be fair, but I can't expect more than that from him. I get it. I also talked to mother-in-law yesterday. She's pretty confused because she comes from a family that confronts things head-on too. She has tried to talk to Margaret to squash things, but it goes more and more south when she does. I think this puts her between a rock and a hard place. She personally thinks that the only thing she did to offend Margaret is marry father-in-law. I gotta be honest. I agree because mother-in-law is so generous with her money, love, support, and attention that I find it very hard to believe that even a fraction of what Margaret is feeling is valid. Mother-in-law is a cool lady, and I've come to regard her as a very good person. Her current stance is, no one is going to get through to her, I am not going to give my husband ultimatums, that's his daughter. It's his choice what he wants to do. For now, I am distancing myself, which is why I am choosing not to go to Italy with them. Myself, Fern, and Tom are going over to mother-in-law/father-in-law's house this Sunday. They were out of town on Mother's Day, so we rescheduled. Originally, Margaret and Corey were part of a group gift that I had fully planned and mapped out to give to Mum. However, very early in the process, they started pulling some lightly shady stuff, and I realized that this gift was going to be used to further manipulate the process. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. They have been completely cut out of the plan, and they're not welcome on Sunday. I feel bad that this means Corey also gets excluded. We all adore him, and the only thing he has done wrong is not challenge his wife. But due to their proximity and the way Margaret uses him, he also had to be cut out of it. They have not contributed to the gifts because I purposely barred them from doing so. One of them is a very large collage with images of all the children. Margaret and Corey are nowhere on this collage, on purpose. I also doubled down as hard as I could, incorporating several other gifts with the kids' names, likenesses, etc., without including Margaret at all. You don't get to treat someone like absolute garbage and then use my thoughtful idea to twist things and use it against someone in the future. Sorry. If you wanted to be on it so badly, you should grow up. Maybe it's overkill, maybe it's mean. All I know is I've had enough, and I am in full support of mother-in-law. Also in full support of mess around and find out. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Talk smack, get hit. And don't bite the hand that feeds you. Mother-in-law also let me know that she sent Margaret a letter in the mail. This is how bad the situation has gotten. Mother-in-law continues to try to rectify the situation, but Margaret blocks her at every turn in favour of being mean over stuff that really doesn't matter in the bigger scheme of things. I'm pretty sure this double whammy of the gifts and letter will stir up an obscene amount of issues in the very near future. All that anyone would really need is an apology that takes full accountability without pointing fingers, making excuses, or playing the victim. That in itself would be a huge step for Margaret, and a sign that she is open to growth. It hasn't happened yet. I doubt it ever will. I'll give more updates as it all unfolds. I anticipate this being a long process.
Milo Horsey says, I have to ask, why hasn't it occurred to any of the family that if she stops them from seeing the kids, they can just stop giving her money and won't be able to babysit for her anymore? It would do her far more harm than them. She's an abusive, controlling nightmare. I think she's definitely her mother's daughter. I also think that the whole family needs therapy, with or without her. Roles are for theater, not real life. Bottling things up will unalive the lot of them way earlier than their natural life end. OP provides more information in the comments by stating, I genuinely have brought this up a lot to them. It wouldn't make sense for her to cut off her primary babysitters, financiers, and punching bags. She would lose her apartment and her stay-at-home mom role and would have to work like the rest of us. They would revoke the car and she would have no way to get around. She would be even less financially stable on top of that because she now needs to find childcare and a way to transport her older kids to and from school. I have stressed these points until I was blue in the face. She's not going to cut anyone off. It is in Margaret's best interest to keep towing everyone along. She does nothing but benefit from the chaos she manufactures and causes. This has fallen on deaf ears, or when it is received, it's not received well. I understand that it might be a cold thing to say to them, but it's the honest truth and reality of the situation. Denial is a river in Egypt.
A few days later, the OP returns with an update on the situation and shares the following insights. Original post. Update 1. So, as you all know, myself, Fern, and Tom had planned some Mother's Day gifts for my mother-in-law. I have to admit, I was worried that Margaret would show up and ruin the whole thing, but it was actually a surprisingly good day. Mostly because she wasn't there, which was the obvious elephant in the room the whole time. Tom worked the grill for a while and we had my mother-in-law open the gifts I had planned. It was a small pirate chest filled with letters from myself, Fern, and Tom, telling her how wonderful of a mother she was. I had aged them and weathered them to look waterlogged, as if they'd been around for a long time. I made her a boondoggle that said, "Number 1 Mum," with our names dangling from it. She opened the collage and the whole thing left her in happy tears, which was nice but also sad at the same time. She said, "You are such a bad person for making me cry," then gave me a big hug. My mother-in-law started to talk about it all. "It's been really rough and I've been having a really hard time," but it was cut off by the men fussing over the grill. I made the rest of lunch and for the most part we had a really, really good time. I noticed my father-in-law's behaviour in Margaret's absence. He wandered off into the yard and stood by himself for extended periods of time, staring at the ground in silence. I registered it as pain. I'm not going to lie. It was palpable how much easier, fun, and quiet the afternoon was with Margaret being intentionally excluded. I could tell that my mother-in-law really needed to talk about what was going on, especially since she was being absolutely flooded with love, in stark contrast to what she's been receiving from Margaret. I approached her towards the end of the evening, and she revealed to me what she had put in the letter. Essentially, it reads something like this. Dear Margaret, I'm sorry that we are having such a hard time seeing eye to eye. I've had my conflicts with Fern and Tom in the past that we have been able to resolve. Since you do not wish to speak to me directly, I am hoping that we can communicate this way to see each other more clearly. I think you're upset with me because I married your dad, but I'm not sure because you will not tell me what is wrong. I want to make peace with you, but I cannot do that with you so blatantly disrespecting me. I feel like I deserve an apology. I feel used by you, especially since I signed your lease for you when you asked right before this happened. Please write me back so we can resolve this. I love you. Apparently, my mother-in-law had my father-in-law read it before she sent it. This looks like a last-ditch effort to rectify the tension, but I'm not sure what the outcome will be because we all know that Margaret is going to absolutely freak out the second she reads it. Margaret can't handle any blame and has no sense of accountability. We can all see it coming, so definitely expect an update on that. On the ride home, I absolutely fell apart. It made me so sad that she has had to go to these lengths to remedy a situation that she didn't cause in the first place. I was also very, very angry at my father-in-law, and basically the whole family, for letting this go on for as long as it has. I ended up confronting Tom about this again. I told him that there are 600 strangers on Reddit calling him and his whole family spineless, and that I found myself defending them because I know otherwise. But in this situation, those 600 strangers are absolutely right. I said that I know his dad is human, but they are all a bunch of cowards for the fend for yourself, just let it go attitude they have when it comes to each of them being so wildly abused and disrespected as a family. Fern deserves better than to have a sister who has told me that the reason Fern got SA'd as a kid is because he put himself out there like that. Excuse me? Corey deserves better than a wife who threatens to call the cops on him for not making her dinner. Huh? Tom deserves a better sister than one who has called me to tell me he's a creep and I bet he's done things to little girls before, with no idea where that one came from. My mother-in-law deserves better than someone who asks her for money and favours only to turn around and rip her to shreds. The entitlement? And my father-in-law deserves better than to have such little self-esteem that he'd rather watch his family disintegrate than cut out the cancer. Yeah, I was heated. Margaret makes things up, takes things out of context, and regularly demonstrates that she genuinely feels the world is out to get her and that everyone else is the problem. I did not let up. Tom listened very patiently. We exchanged a lot of words, and the conversation took over an hour. The end result was, my dad is nearing being approachable about this subject. Today showed him the kind of life we can have without her. You definitely launched a psychological bomb at him, with how well you planned the day and how much you showed my mother-in-law that she's worth something.
He's struggling, but I promise that I'll talk to him about it soon.
We talk 3 times a week and he knows it's coming. The last statement I made was, I am not an on-the-fence person. I'm the only one who has outright picked a side. And it's not Margaret's because I refuse to enable this insanity anymore. It's wrong, and you guys are wrong for coddling a grown woman's hurt ego, knowing that it's harming literally everyone else in the family. Pick a side and be done with it. I refuse to let my mother-in-law go through this alone. We will see how much longer the circus goes on. I anticipate the events that happen this weekend will lead to the biggest blow-up that Margaret has had yet. The shady online posts have already started, according to Tom, who has found it amusing and low of her. It's about to get a lot crazier when this letter hits, and even worse when she eventually visits my father-in-law and sees a giant collage with all the kids except for her. There are so many of you that have said you are emotionally invested in my story. I'll continue to update so we all get the closure we need. Thanks for all the support and trash talking. I've gotten quite a few laughs out of the comments. Stay tuned, I guess.
Lady Trix says, I'm so glad mother-in-law has you in her corner. I can't believe they have let it go on for so long. They can't avoid the problem forever, and it shouldn't have taken you to call out the nonsense. Keep being you, original poster, and let the chips fall where they may. Margaret will end up losing her entire family and will still blame everyone but herself. I really hope Corey can find the strength to leave and fight for his kids. OPR responds, if any of us could ever get Corey alone, I'm sure we could help break the spell. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a lot of family support. At least this is what I've been told. And so he's kind of isolated in that house. It probably seems like staying is the lesser of 2 evils. The devil you know. The crazy part is that I'm pretty sure if he came to anyone else in the family asking us for help to leave, everyone would do so without question. We all see it.
Oh, this is really sad, isn't it? Here we go again, people. This story is like an emotional roller coaster that just won't bloody stop. Margaret. What a royal mess she's made of things, eh? Can you believe this mess, really? I mean, the family goes through all these hoops for the MIL's day, and it's a success, just because Margaret isn't there. It's unbelievable. And the poor FIL, he's out there in his own world, looking at the ground, reflecting on what? The crumbled family dynamics? The part where MIL writes a heartfelt letter in a bid to make peace, how gut-wrenchingly sad is that? Seriously, she's going above and beyond to patch things up. And what do we expect? Margaret to absolutely blow her top when she gets this letter. Everyone seems to know it's coming. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. And speaking of disasters, let's talk about the FIL's cowardice. For crying out loud, how long can you let one person desecrate the happiness of an entire family? If there ever was a time for intervention, that train's long gone now. I'm genuinely gutted for the MIL, and I stand with OP, pulling no punches, picking a side, and not enabling delusions anymore. What the hell kind of chaotic existence is Margaret living? People, tell me I'm crazy, but was anyone else hoping for a peaceful resolution here? Drop your thoughts below, because this family saga feels like it needs a whole episode of reality TV. It's just, what a bloody circus. We're glued to this impending chaos, right? Stay tuned, because who knows where this saga's headed next. Weeks have passed since OP decided to cut her sister-in-law, Margaret, out of her life, and tensions have remained high within the family as they navigate the fallout. Now the OP comes with a new update, stating, the original poster provided updates with links, and it's been a while since then. Many of you have been eagerly awaiting updates on this situation. There finally is something to report to you eager Reddit readers. Heads up, there has been no resolution yet, but I can feel it coming soon. When we last left off, it was the Mother's Day incident. Since then, there has been a significant amount of silence between everyone. Margaret is still posting nonsense on the internet, Fern is remaining withdrawn, Tom has been pretty quiet, and the father-in-law is still avoiding taking action on the matter. However, the mother-in-law has finally put her foot down. Recently, there was an impromptu excursion that the mother-in-law and father-in-law went on to visit old family friends in another state. I guess the father-in-law grew up with them, and they hadn't seen each other in a while, so he took the mother-in-law there to visit. The mother-in-law and father-in-law got a hotel while they were staying there. Apparently, about halfway through the trip, Margaret and Corey showed up. I'm not sure who initiated it, but the visits were deliberately scheduled by one party or the other. There was about a 2-day overlap, with the in-laws arriving first and then Margaret, Corey, and the 4 kids afterwards. Both parties were aware of the other. I strongly suspect this is why the mother-in-law and father-in-law chose to stay at a hotel instead of with the friends in the first place. Anyway, things were wonderful when just the in-laws were there, but once Margaret's group showed up, it quickly turned for the worse. The mother-in-law told me it started immediately with passive-aggressive comments. This was nothing new for anyone, so she mostly ignored it. The mother-in-law made it a point to treat Margaret, Corey, and the kids as though she were meeting them for the first time. She was polite, respectful, and reserved. Margaret's response to this was intentionally, deliberately, and obviously interfering any time one of her children approached the mother-in-law. The mother-in-law was unable to get a hug, have a conversation, or spend any time with the kids because Margaret redirected them to other people. It was pretty scummy, but it didn't stop there. There was a dinner planned on the second overlap day. The mother-in-law and father-in-law went out to explore the state that morning, and the mother-in-law decided to stay behind at the hotel afterwards to catch a quick nap. The father-in-law went to the friend's house without her. Margaret and Corey were at the family friend's house when this happened, and apparently, the mother-in-law taking a nap was a big problem for Margaret. Margaret claimed she was starving and hadn't eaten all day, and apparently this was the mother-in-law's fault. Margaret said, "The mother-in-law always does this. She has no respect." It went on from there, and she quickly began trying to campaign with the family friend, dragging the mother-in-law through the mud and claiming the mother-in-law always has to have her way. Apparently, the family friend did not take kindly to this and nipped it quickly, souring the mood for dinner by the time the mother-in-law arrived. There was a lot of tension and more passive-aggressive comments throughout the evening. The mother-in-law wasn't aware of anything but the weird vibes over dinner. Finally, on the way back to the hotel room, the father-in-law told her the entire story of Margaret's antics. Now that everyone is caught up, the most recent development happened when the whole family got together yesterday, sans Margaret and Corey, who are still out of state. The mother-in-law and I were able to catch up, and I got the whole story. Apparently, the overlap in the trip was going to be the determining factor for the mother-in-law. If things were civil and respectful, she would go to Italy with the family. If not, she was going to stay behind. Well, not only is she staying behind, but she has had enough of Margaret altogether. The mother-in-law was not angry or aggressive about it, but she left the father-in-law no room for conversation once she made her decision. The mother-in-law is definitely not going to pay for Margaret's car anymore. The mother-in-law also refuses to be a co-signer on Margaret's lease again. I guess it's coming up soon. The timeline is fuzzy on that one for me. And the big announcement. The mother-in-law no longer wants Margaret, Corey, or the kids at the house at all. She no longer cares that this means she won't be babysitting the kids anymore. In the mother-in-law's words, she knows I can't have kids, and she brings it up all the time. So it should come as no surprise that I have no problem not seeing them because I don't know what I'm missing. I don't have kids, remember? She's thankful for that, remember? So take them. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore because it's not like she lets me really see them anyway. I'm not sure how this impacts the father-in-law, but neither of us really care at this point. There is solidarity within the Margaret is troublesome and we've had enough camp. During the conversation, I made it a point to tell her I was proud of her. The mother-in-law has really been caught in the crosshairs for a long time, and it was awesome to hear that she has stopped waiting for the father-in-law to make decisions about this. The mother-in-law told me quite plainly, "I've decided that I don't like Margaret. She's just a mean person. And maybe it's cold, but she can take the kids with her at this point. I'll survive without them. It hurts, but it's not like I'm going to be unalived if she suddenly disappears from my life." Hell yeah, go mother-in-law. I told her that Tom also can't stand her, and that's why we arrive and leave early from family functions. He doesn't want to be around her at all if he can help it. That made her smile. I'm not sure how relevant this is, but it was something I noticed during the conversation between the mother-in-law and me. Fern has been firmly in the "I'm staying out of it" camp these days. However, he lingered around the conversation long enough for me to suspect he was listening in. He stood near us, not saying anything and busying himself with a 5-minute task that, apparently, turned into a 20-minute task. I'm not sure what this is about. I don't think he is reporting to Margaret or anything. He wouldn't ruin his own day like that. I think he genuinely wanted to know what was going on, but he didn't participate in the conversation. I'm seriously hoping that Fern is the next to put his foot down with Margaret. At that point, the only person left on the fence would be the father-in-law. Fern still calls me about Margaret sometimes, but he's much more elusive and sheepish than he used to be. It's almost like he's unsure of what to do other than just let it play out. As much as Fern loves Margaret, he's about at the end of his rope as well, and I think, ultimately, he's just wrestling with his feelings right now. Anyhow, the mother-in-law and I made plans to hang out while the family is in Italy. We have a spa day planned, a trip to a tea house, horseback riding, and all kinds of cool stuff.
We also laughed about how the whole family is going to spend an entire week in Italy trapped with Margaret while we get to have a vacation fully away from all the chaos. It made me happy to see that the mother-in-law did not give in to the pressure to go for the sake of her husband. It really did. Also, seeing the excitement on her face while we were planning our week was a priceless, wonderful moment to savor. She drew her line, and I couldn't be prouder. The rest of the family, however, is still planning to go to Italy. This was honestly infuriating to me. How many more chances does this person get? I have previously stated that I believe the father-in-law to be a good father, and he is, but he is also a huge coward. I talked to Tom about this yesterday again. My poor husband gets an earful about it every time we come home from a family event. I still genuinely do not understand why he would choose to continue allowing a bomb in his house with the justification that he doesn't know how to defuse it. The solution should be simple. Just throw the problem out of your house. Everyone is getting affected by the collateral damage, and it's nuts. I again told Tom that I don't understand why Margaret is still allowed to go on this amazing vacation despite being an entitled, malicious brat. But the mother-in-law and I have to stay home because we don't want to deal with her nonsense. Italy is amazing, and we always have a good time. Fern and Tom have both told me, separately, that their plans are to go do something else away from her when she starts acting up. I can't imagine how that is supposed to be relaxing. I'm not going to spend the considerable amount of money to go on a vacation just to sign up for it being ruined, or to have to adjust my plans around someone who can't chill out for more than 30 seconds at a time. We had a long conversation where I again brought up that it would be in Margaret's best interest to stop her nonsense if there was a serious threat to her current lifestyle. Tom told me that it's unlikely anything the family says or does would change her behaviour or make her face reality. I guess they've been in this situation before with Margaret in their younger years. Tom told me a whole story about how Margaret was confronted with something, not sure what, by the family and was told to shape up or ship out. She left home, stayed with a bunch of random people for a place to live, and bounced around couches for a while, refusing to come home. I guess all she had to do in that instance was apologise, but she was so determined with the idea that everyone was out to get her that she chose virtual homelessness instead. Tom told me that Corey was the one who helped Margaret get off random couches. This whole story was a whirlwind for me. Tom said, "You don't know Margaret. She would put herself in dire situations before she admits she's wrong or made a mistake. It's easier for her to play the victim, spin stories, and lay down the sympathy card than it is for her to admit fault or deflate her ego." My response to that was, "Tell me again why she's still invited to Italy?" The conversation went nowhere after that. Basically the same thing all over again. Someone needs to make the decision. It's a tough situation. You don't understand because you aren't family. I'm just going to mind my own business, and so forth. The situation is still maddening. However, I have a feeling Margaret is going to unravel during the vacation. Without me or the mother-in-law there, she can freely do her passive-aggressive talking. I'm sure it's going to be very hard for the rest of the family to ignore it for a week straight without relief. I told Tom that if he had any sense, he would use it as an opportunity to push his father's feet to finally take action. Although I have faith in my husband doing the right thing, I also know the dynamics are working against him in this case. We will see what happens. The vacation is set to take place in a little under 2 months. I'm not sure if I will have another update for you all until then, but if I do, you can definitely expect to see it here. Tom promised to keep me updated while in Italy, so the mother-in-law and I know what to expect when everyone gets back. I really feel that this Italy trip will be the breaking point if it goes sour. Despite all the posturing, I'm certain that everyone going knows that chaos with Margaret is inevitable, especially since Margaret, her 4 kids, Corey and Fern are all staying in a cheap hotel while the rest of the family rented a townhouse for the week.
It's going to be amusing sitting on the sidelines with the mother-in-law, away from all of that. However, I know the group will come back absolutely exhausted. Fingers crossed that Italy is the event that finally causes everyone to actually put an end to this chaotic situation.
Let me tell you something. This saga with Margaret is just beyond words at this point. I mean, how many chances does one person get? It's unbelievable. And the worst part is, no resolution in sight yet. And I'm sitting here actually wondering what on earth this family's thinking. First off, a round of applause for the mother-in-law for stepping up and saying, "Screw it, I'm done with Margaret," right? It's about bloody time somebody showed this woman the door and said enough is enough. But here's where it all falls apart for me, folks. The entire family still planning to jet off to Italy with Margaret in tow, knowing full well she's a walking time bomb of passive-aggressive nonsense. It's absurd. Like, are we serious right now? What's the point of a family vacation if it's going to be clouded by her antics? Jeez, it's like signing up for chaos with a 5-star view. And you know what makes it worse? Even after it all, the father-in-law is still playing Mr. Indecisive. Seriously, mate, how hard can it be to protect the peace in your own family? It's just, I don't even know anymore. But I know this. If Italy turns into the disaster I'm predicting, I hope it finally wakes everyone up. Because this level of dysfunction isn't just tiring, it's damn near comedic. If you're listening to this, you felt that too. We all deserve a break from the madness. Several months have passed since I last shared my experience with cutting my sister-in-law Margaret out of my life. And now, I have a final update to share with you. Since then, the dynamics within the family have continued to evolve, especially given my mother-in-law's unwavering support against Margaret's toxic behaviour. Let me fill you in on what has transpired since then. Original poster. Update 1. Update 2. Update 3. It's really hard for me to believe that 6 months have gone by since this fiasco. I am so sorry for making you all wait for so long. There has been a lot going on, as you will soon see, and I have not had time to update anyone on this. I also thought it would be a good idea for things to settle down first. A lot of you might be disappointed, but here is what happened. Italy did not go smoothly for almost anyone. Who saw that one coming? Don't get me wrong, they had a fun time, but the ever-constant chaos that seems to follow the family everywhere was right along with them. Shortest version possible. Per Fern, who is the only one I am still in contact with, Margaret, Corey and Fern all shared a hotel room, away from the rest of the family. Fern was having a bit of a hard time being around Margaret, who raged basically the whole time, so he offered to switch spots with the family friend that went with them. Margaret turned this into a "whose side are you on" kind of scenario, and spent the rest of the trip talking badly and doing the dramatic thing that she likes to do. Her group alternated between engaging with the family in short bursts and retreating into their own little hole whenever things didn't go Margaret's way. Surprisingly, this was the least stressful thing that happened to the family. As it turns out, it was actually Tom who ruined it for everyone. As Fern tells it, he was intoxicated almost the whole time and started arguments with almost everyone, including Fern himself, who Tom brought to tears. Father-in-law had to intervene on multiple occasions because Tom was getting very out of hand and basically causing problems for nearly the whole family. Everything from kicking over trash cans on the street to verbally attacking Fern, to antagonising things with Margaret, to walking off by himself and screaming at nothing. A lot of "I ruin everything I touch" and "get the fuck away from me" type of things. Apparently, he also had a full mental breakdown over me separating from him, but he continued to aggressively take it out on virtually everyone that was out there in Italy with him. At the tail end of the trip, he fully cried and broke down and spoke to Fern and told him everything that was happening at home. Right before they all left, I spent a brief period of time with mother-in-law. We got brunch and talked for a lot of hours. It was pleasant, but that conversation helped me firmly make up my mind. I knew it was time to consider separating from my husband and that it might be the last time I was going to see her. We cried about it, and the more we both talked, the more it seemed like staying was a bad idea for me. She fully supported my decision and promised to keep in touch. Originally, the decision was around a trial separation. I had enough of the whole thing and just needed my space away from the chaos for a while. But I still loved him, so divorce was not yet firmly on the table. I realised that this is the dynamic that I will potentially be raising my own children in. The dysfunction was insanity, and looking back on it, I would be lying to myself if I said that Tom and Margaret were totally different people.
Tom himself would rage out over seemingly minute things or shut down and sulk when things didn't go his way too. The lack of communication, the outbursts, the complete chaos, the utter disaster was getting to me. I know that the family has a lot of trauma as a unit, clearly. But at the end of the day, I have my own peace to prioritize, so I felt that moving out would be a solid solution. Tom and I had talked about this shortly before everyone left for Italy. We were firmly on the same page about it, and everything seemed amicable. The agreement was for us both to enjoy our time apart, then to come together after Italy to really work on our marriage. To my knowledge at this time, everything in Italy was going smoothly. Tom gave no indication whatsoever that he was struggling or that there was chaos in the area. I assumed, of course, because of Margaret, but to be completely frank, there was no sign over the phone that there was anything wrong. We did not talk about the separation, so I was under the impression we were still on the same page. So while Tom was raging in Italy, I packed my stuff and moved to my own place, exactly as we had discussed. Unfortunately, this turned out to be a wrong move in Tom's book. The whole thing went to disaster, pretty much the second he got back to the house. The way he behaved, it was like looking Margaret in the face but times 10. So angry, so irrational, so intensely cruel and seeping with hatred. It didn't go according to plan for him, and I think he genuinely didn't take me seriously when I said I needed a break. As it turns out, I was serious as a heart attack, and he really, really didn't like that. During this time is when Fern told me everything that happened. He gave me a detailed account of the entire Italy trip, including his last conversation with Tom. 100% of the information I have has come directly from Fern, who is by a landslide the sanest of the blood relatives. Naturally, during the fiasco of me leaving, I confronted Tom about this, specifically the last conversation they had. I asked him why he was being so hostile when this was a discussed agreement that we came to an amicable decision on. I pointedly asked him how he could come home and behave this way towards me when he was upset with me leaving in the first place. In my mind, it would have made more sense to actually communicate our feelings instead of, quite frankly, raging out and being a jerk. Tom was very defensive and essentially cussed me out. "You don't know anything. Oh, because you were there, right? Get out of my face. Call the police if you're so pressed about it." It was quite nasty, actually. I won't say it wasn't predictable, but I certainly didn't see it going as far as it went. So, I made the next decision, which is what half of you on Reddit proposed to me on the very first post about this situation way back when. After Tom made it clear that he viewed me as an enemy for standing up for myself, I knew divorce was the best option. I have not seen him nor been in contact with him since July, which is the last day I had any possessions in the house. I have since gotten the hell out of there, and I am currently on no contact with the entire family, with the exception of Fern, whom I will always love and adore. I am flying back home to Australia this week to see some relatives over the holidays, and I couldn't be happier with my decision to leave my soon-to-be ex-husband behind. My life has been so quiet since I left. I'll admit, sometimes I do miss the drama. It could be entertaining at times, but mostly I'm just glad that I don't have to conform to someone else's crazy idea that filtering your boundaries or being a pushover is the best option for conflict solving and resolution. To my knowledge, no one has talked to Margaret about her behaviour, and Tom has continued to behave the same way he did in Italy. Makes sense, and I am thankful for all the advice I received on here. Rereading the comments, I laugh a lot more at them. You guys saw things that I couldn't, and I think if I hadn't come on here, I would still be in a chaotic marriage and living in a circus tent. I wish that family the best, but unless they all collectively start going to intensive therapy, I doubt it will ever change. Nuts. Crazy. Insane. No thank you, stay blessed, but do it way the hell over there, away from me. Thank you all for being so patient. Maybe I was the jerk for calling out the nonsense in real time, but I certainly am not the jerk for leaving before all my hair fell out. Much love to you all, hungry Reddit readers. Much love to you all, hungry Reddit readers.
Hyena Shot 8896 says, I hate to say this, but good for you. I hope Fern and the mother-in-law eventually get away from that. Good luck in your future. A Reddit user says, I had to read the whole saga first. I'm so glad you're getting out. I wish your mother-in-law would too. She seems like a gem, and it is maddening that she has put up with this treatment too. I wish you all the best, and I hope you have so much fun with your family. Massive forget you to Tom and most of his family, except Fern. He also seems to be a gem. Trauma bonded, but a kind soul. I hope he gets out too.
I can't even believe what we've just gone through with that saga. Family drama on an international scale, with outbursts and meltdowns, all wrapped up in chaotic relationships. My word, it sounds like the kind of suspense film that has us glued to our screens. But you know what? Even if OP found themselves trapped in what seemed like a circus, it sounds like they've taken a massive leap forward, prioritizing their peace over pandemonium. And you know what makes it better? Imagine dodging those chaos-shaped bullets while sipping tea back in Australia. That's some next-level escape. So listen, if these jaw-dropping stories hit you right in the feels, or if they had you saying, "What in the world?" go ahead and let it out in the comments below. I feel you. And if you're new here, or maybe just hungry for more madness and revelation, smash that subscribe button and journey with us as we dive into the tumultuous tales of Reddit next time. Stay curious, stay entertained, and more importantly, take care of yourselves out there. Cheers!